Salutations, I'm the Abstract Artist, and today I'm making Amity from the Owl House. I start with my base doll, who is Stella from the Wigs series. She's from the same doll line as my loose doll. To start off, I take a sharp pair of scissors and I cut off all of her hair as close to the roots as possible. Then I take pliers and remove her rooted eyelashes. I cut a slot in the back of her head so I can remove the roots from the inside. I did this because her neck hole was too tiny to remove her head the normal way. I don't just want her bald, I need her faceless, so I use acetone to remove her factory face up. When I do this, I make sure to rub really well where her eyelashes used to be to get the paint out of the little holes. I made her little witch ears out of epoxy sculpt clay. Once the clay hardened, I then just sand it smooth, and then I paint on her skin tone color and her earrings. To prep her face, I sprayed her with Mr. Super Clear and sketched on her face design in white charcoal pencil. Then, because I like testing the doll repaint gods, I take a black watercolor pencil and just go headfirst in, starting on her eyeliner. This is generally frowned upon because it's a better idea to go in with a lighter color pencil and slowly build your colors up to the darker state that you want them to be, that way it's easier to erase any mistakes with a needed eraser. You might have noticed I gave Amity her later seasons very wide-eyed look. I did that because I just like her character a little bit better in the later seasons, even though she does have a really sassy look in the first one. With her eyeliner done, I outline and fill in her eyebrows with black. For her eye whites, I actually use a white charcoal pencil instead of a white watercolor pencil because I find it makes it a little bit more saturated. Then I used a paintbrush to fill in her irises with yellow chalk pastels. I added some shading with a yellow watercolor pencil, and then I gave her black pupils with another pencil. I had also outlined her irises with black as well. This is as saturated as all her colors will get in pencil and pastels, so I went over her eye whites with white paint, and then all that's left is to give her eye highlights. I also did her nails in black. Moving on to Amity's hairstyles, I decided to make her 2 wig caps because she has multiple hairstyles throughout the show. This is her green-haired wig that has a little widow's peak at the front of the hair, and then this one over here is going to be her purple wig. I didn't bother giving it a widow's peak because you would not be seeing it. For her green wig, I begin by gluing large green wefts from one side of her head all the way around to the back of her head, and finishing up on the opposite side of her head. As I glue the sides of her hair, I make sure to pull them behind her ears, that way they dry in place into the shape I want. As you can see here, it's a little bit too long, so I give her a trim and then I move the placement of the pin that I've been using to keep her hair in place. I glue a large green weft hanging directly down into her face like bangs, and then once that dries, I pull it all the way back and glue it down in place. Then I pull it back into a ponytail with some black thread. Look at this bitch. I love her. I created her brown roots by cutting small pieces of brown yarn wefts into very pointed shapes and then gluing them around the front of her hairline in a star-like shape. Here's what the finished green wig looks like. I actually was really surprised by how close to the original I was able to get. Generally very happy with it. With her hard hairstyle over with, I begin on her purple wig in the same way. I glue purple yarn wefts all around her head and tuck the hair on the sides of her head behind her ears. I put the last bits of the hair that go on the bald spots in the back spiraling towards her side part. And then I do her brown roots, which are just a couple little pieces right at the front of her hairline, getting tucked behind her ears. I added some more purple yarn wefts to the sides of her hair to make them thicker, and then I added on her bangs in large pointed wefts. At this point, she kind of looks like a scene kid type of hairstyle from the early 2000s, but she's going to need a haircut. So I trim off the excess ends and point them into a little angled shape around her face. This is what her finished purple wig looks like. I'm actually more of a fan of her purple hairstyle than her green. Which one do you prefer? Both of her wigs seem to fit her about equally the same, and because I plan on switching out her wigs a lot more often than I do with my loose doll, I don't plan on using a pin to keep her wig in place, but to each their own. If you ever make a wig for your doll, it might help to put a pin secretly hidden somewhere, that way it just stays exactly where you want it. For Amity's outfit, I begin by painting her legs bright red and to match her tights. I don't like sewing tights this small for dolls. I just mix some red paint with some glue, and that way it kinda dries shiny, but I end up spraying her with Mr. Super Clear to try and combat that. Amity's dress was sewn by me and painted, and I have the whole process up on a video on my Patreon. So if you want to go see that, head over there. Her shoes, on the other hand, you get to see the process for. I begin by covering her feet in tin foil, that way I can do a paper mache base for her shoes. Instead of using flour, I just use water and glue mixed together, and then I dunk my paper strips in it and wrap it around her tin foil. I draw a line going down the middle front of them, and then I cut a back seam in the back, that way I can slip them off her feet, kind of like how Monster High dolls have a line going down the back of their shoes. Once I get them off, I use tweezers to remove the inside tinfoil that have stuck to the shoes. Then I use scissors to cut and shape the front of the shoes into a V shape, like what it looks like in the show. I used epoxy sculpt clay to make her heels. They did turn out a little bit asymmetrical and wobbly, but it all gets painted black anyway. This is what they look like after they had hardened completely. This is the entire base of the shoe finished. Like I said before, they just get painted up black. There's no shading really to these, just matte black acrylic. Then I glue on a little crescent moon charm made out of some cereal box. For her necklace, I just flattened a small ball of clay, and then I painted it into a little crescent moon with purple and yellow. Once I was done painting it, I took some wire and I bent it into a little curved V shape. Then I glued the charm to it, that way the necklace could be poseable. Going on to Amity's accessories, I made her 2 little Tamagotchis. Well, technically, I only made her 1, and the other one is for Luz. They're just clay that I sculpted and then painted, little kitty cat shapes. Using a small piece of wire and some more clay, I then sculpted and painted the little key that they use to get to the human world. I chose this as Amity's accessory instead of Luz, just because I can. I lost a lot of footage of painting it for some reason, and sculpting it. To be fair, I did make most of Amity's accessories when I was making Luz's, so who knows where it's gone. I also lost most of the footage for sculpting Amity's Palisman Ghost, so this is the sped up version of what I have of it. I had used a wooden skewer as the base of the staff, and then I had just used more epoxy sculpt clay, and I made a little kitty cat shape for the top. Overall, I really like the shape. I kind of feel like some parts were a bit lumpier, but I like how it came out. I watered down white acrylic paint and painted all over her. Then I just painted the staff purple and added on her face using some black for her eyeliner and a little bit of pink for her nose. This next accessory I've been wanting to make since I saw it in exactly 1 episode for like 3 seconds, an abomination teapot that we get to see a butler hold. I don't know why I was so obsessed with it, but I had to make it. I sand down a round giant B to be the base of the teapot, and I sand it that way it can actually sit flat on the bottom. I began sculpting the tea topper out of a very pointed piece of clay, imagine like a small rounded pyramid. Then I sculpted the spout of the teapot into a very wide, curved type of shape. I sculpt a diamond shape rising up the sides of the tea topper. The teapot has a segmented pumpkin-like shape to its body, so I make 4 sections of balls of clay and I begin smoothing them onto their sides, but maintaining that segmented look. Can you guess what happened next? That's right, I lost footage of sculpting. Well, I got to this portion, which was just me smoothing out the clay and then adding on the melty bits and the handle. A lot of drippy drop shapes go around the bottom to make the base of the teapot. I also sculpted 2 little teacups so they can have a full tea party. They're just some dome shapes that I flattened and then added bumps and handles to. Since the clay I used was black, I went over it with some white acrylic paint, that way the colors would really pop and stand out more when I went over it with the purple. The eyes, though, do stay black. The Abomination teapot surprisingly gets colored with Abomination purples and pinks. Just like the rest of the accessories, the teapot gets painted in a flat color scheme with very little shading to match the show's art style. That's the last accessory to make for Amity. This is all of my Amity dolls accessories next to my Loose dolls accessories from her video. By the time I'm done with my Owl House series for my dolls, I'm going to have so many accessories I won't know where to store them. I decided to go ahead and paint a background as well. I chose to paint the night sky from the Grom episode. Does this count as a Valentine's Day episode for my dolls? I don't know, you tell me in the comments. Apologies for disappearing for 6 months, by the way. I really took quite a time skip there. A lot of things ended up happening in my personal life, and I ended up having to move in the middle of working on my Jinx hideout and doll scale from Arcane. During all of this, my Amity doll has been sitting half-finished on my desk, wrapped in saran wrap like some sort of Dexter victim. So I decided to finish her, give her some clothes and hair, clothes of which are on my Patreon, by the way, just another shameless plug, and then give you guys a video so it's not just the void on my channel. Also, I have a microphone now. Shout out to the Russian people in my comment section that were fighting about whether or not the audio was bad or if it was just their computers. The next video you guys are going to get is my doll scale Jinx hideout from Arcane. I plan on making other characters from the Owl House. I already have Luz and Amity, so the next on my list are Ida, Rain, and Hunter. Those are my favorite characters. Can you guess which one's next? Thank you to all of you for sticking around to watch my videos. It means a lot to me. If you want to see my next videos to come, then I suggest you subscribe and hit that button. Bell? I don't know. I barely know how to edit. Well, I'll see you next time. Toodaloo. Bye!